Unless change happens, unless some different dynamic enters the picture, the work will, the development or lack thereof will continue in how it has been progressing. Community will develop, will grow, will get larger, there will be urban spread, and there will be no formality with it. And what we will have resulting is the crime that associates with these communities. It's the poor health that is associated with it, and the increased vulnerabilities. And we need to make a choice as to which we want. Do we pay the bill after, or do we pay the bill up front? I think the cost up front is much more beneficial to the community and to the government as a whole than waiting until after a disaster were to occur.
It is not something that is recognized worldwide right now, but we are bringing it to the forefront that there is a relationship between tenure security and resilience.
Brace is here to help with them legalizing and regularizing the land.
We had a series of workshops, and of those workshops, there were some things that were identified as crucial that needs to be a part of the discourse to help deal with regularization, deal with secure tenure, thus making the communities more resilient. Some of those things we're talking about is the absence of technology. The second aspect is gathering information and sharing information. Persons are willing to get involved, but they know that if you price something too high, they can't even start. So we have to make it attractive. We have to make it affordable for them to get involved. And the Habitat Fast Track process that has been mapped out and that we're speaking to seeks to do just that.
We are currently working on what is known as the Habitat Fast Track process, a framework document that is used to assist in the fast tracking of land tenure regularization in Jamaica at a lower cost.
There are two main categories that the Habitat Fast Track process speaks to. One is involvement of new technology and a collaboration of information setting that can be handled at the community level. The other part of that is there needs to be a review of the acts and the provisions, the laws that currently govern this urbanization process.
The fast track process, it's very integrative. It would be a place where you can get information, and information in this time is very important. So we definitely looking forward to that and how we as a community can get the process and get involved in the whole land regularization.
The CRC will be the hub where all of that will be maintained, so the community will definitely be a part of, if not the entire process of the fast track.
What we are doing now in communities like Gregory Park is to work with not only community members but also with the government agencies and the different agencies involved in the land tenure regularization process to assist persons on the ground to increase the security of tenure. As a supporting tool to the Habitat Fast Track process, we develop what is known as the Territorial Information Management System Platform, the TISMP. The TISMP is an open source GIS web-based platform that is used to host spatial data, and it's also a land management tool to properly plan for and analyze communities and ensure that whatever we are doing, it is fitting and we can assess risks and also reduce the effect of hazards and increase resilience.
There are no laws, absolutely no laws at the current point in time we're speaking that targets the urban informal sector directly. There are general laws, there are general provisions that covers the entire country, but not particular to this particular demographic. And this is a group where if something were to happen, you have the largest densities of people, and that in and of itself is a problem. We would like to support the articulation of a law that will target the urban informal sectors, regularization there, and that can be supported by a number of agencies. The agencies that we have been talking with, meeting with, they are also interested in doing something. while we are talking to these changes that needs to happen, we recognize that there are certain behaviors that seem to have been baked into the systems in which we work, like archaic laws, will continue to hamper the growth and the development of the nation.
In the second iteration, what we sought to do was to assist these persons with getting regularized by way of the Special Provisions Act. It's registration of titles, cadastral mapping, and tenure clarification Special Provisions Act. In Nagoed, under the SP, what we have found is that given that we surveyed all the lands, that was one using the cadastral map because the SPA allows for cadastral mapping, we have seen that, that takes care of a lot of the things for persons. Once the process goes through smoothly, if the CAD map is approved and everything, then that can take approximately 8 months to a year for everything to be done.
There needs to be some kind of land-based financing tool introduced into the dynamic that would allow the agencies to maintain their bottom lines, to have new influx of and inflows of income into the society that will help to build and develop. So we're talking about incrementally growing the development in here in Jamaica, in Portmore. We've also identified that there needs to be a correlation and an interaction between the levels. So we're talking about the community not being excluded, but being included in the discussions around how that development takes place. We're talking about the various agencies that are involved in land regularization, that are involved in the pricing of those things that impact land regularization. There seems to be not a clear recognition that if we price the costs for regularization so high, then it excludes immediately the largest part of the community from being involved. And if the squatters can be brought in to the whole picture, and that I think would represent somewhere about a quarter of the population, if that can be brought into the mainstream of financing, we're always going to have deficit.
We recognize in Jamaica there are several barriers as it relates to acquiring security of tenure and specifically acquiring land titles in Jamaica. And some of these barriers are social barriers, political, geographical barriers, economical barriers, which we recognize that cost is a major problem on both sides, whether an agency is trying to regularize an entire area or for individuals or citizens in the country to actually get a land title, it's very costly.
Well, I think it's important for any organization really to really focus on young people because they're not only innovative and progressively thinking, but also have a lot of energy, and it's their future that we're talking about when it comes to most social issues. So I think there's a great value in incorporating young people and actually giving them the opportunity to kind of create the future that they want to live in.
Young people know what their friends, what their colleagues respond to. And so the fact that we now have a very horizontal communication between the young people of the project and the young people of the community that we're trying to influence, it's made to order for those of us who have been around for a while, who have been looking for ways to reach the next generation.
One of the reasons why we chose both Nagohead and the Gregory Park is because the Nagohead situation allows us to learn what the Habitat Fast Track process would look like if you applied it to a private land scenario, and the Gregory Park scenario would have been for the Habitat Fast Track process would allow for us to test the government-owned lands perspective on the issue.
You'd welcome any sort of process which can really expedite the whole matter of tenure, proper tenure. At the same time, it's a process that has to get the buy-in of crucial agencies and government overall.
And it's very important to do something like this because it brings it to a grassroots level then. You've brought it to a micro scale, which means that you can look at every single detail, every little step that was taken and be able to maybe replicate it and scale it up somewhere else?
Well, where Brace is concerned, you know, I think it will be interesting. I'm looking forward to see the manual in terms of regularization and the recommended process and approach, right? Because we have been working along with them. They have actually, you know, consulted with us as government, and we have made our recommendations. So we look forward to the process where we can have that sort of common approach towards, you know, the whole matter of regularization, etc.
Once we are able to tackle those collectively,
This is the work that we're doing here is very important. It's very life improving, and I think it needs to go national, and I would say to the entire world that it needs to go international.
with the opposition, the government, and the municipality and the community all speaking the same language, the development of Jamaica could be advanced, must be advanced. The resilience of the people will be increased significantly. And what we will have happening is the next time one of the storms come through, or we have a terrific shake, what we will have are people who are more resilient because they have invested. They have invested in the places where they live. And if that investment does not come, then we leave the people vulnerable, and we need to make a change. So yes, change is possible. Change will happen. But how we determine and drive the change is where we need to get involved at the government level, at the community level, municipal level.